Hi everyone, welcome to English in Korean Plus. Today, again, we're filming the US News Summary. You may have noticed that I've increased the frequency of the show recently. So I used to do the show every few months. From now on, I'm going to do it about every week. And on the flip side of that coin, normally it's been the show's been long, like 20 or 30 minutes. From here on out, probably going to keep the show to about 10 to 15 minutes and then just increase the frequency. I think that's a better way of doing things. I think when you want to learn a language, one important thing is to expose yourself to the language as often as possible. So if you look at the podcast list on Apple, the most downloaded podcast, there's a lot of stuff from the US and a lot of stuff from the BBC, a lot of stuff that's conducted in English. And YouTube, the same situation. There's a lot in English. But that stuff, that content is targeting native English speakers. So a lot of times it's very quick. The dialogue is quick. It's conducted at a real rapid speed, a rapid pace. So I think one of the things that we can do to make this more useful for you, for our subscribers, is to speak slowly. So on this show, if the normal speed, let's say, is 100%, I try to talk at about 60%. I think that'll be helpful for you. And then if you want to watch something that's carried out at the normal speed, you can just watch NBC from the US or the BBC from England or hundreds of other shows on the internet. Okay, today's topic, and this happened about a week ago. Trump engaged in a Twitter feud with the cast of Hamilton. So there's a musical now on Broadway. We can say it took Broadway by storm. If something's very popular or very successful, we say it took and then a place name by storm. So if it took Korea by storm, let's say there was a boy band that came to Korea and it took Korea by storm, that would mean that it's very popular. So this musical, Hamilton, is about one of the founding fathers of the United States, Alexander Hamilton. And he's famous for starting the National Bank, the Federal Bank of the United States. So he was the first treasurer at the time of George Washington. So he's a founding father of the United States, and he's on the $10 bill. If you look at the $10 bill, he's featured, his portrait is featured on it. There's a musical that began, I guess it was about 2 years ago. It started off Broadway, but it was so successful that it moved to Broadway. And it's called Hamilton. It's about Alexander Hamilton. And they tell his story through rap. The actors rap to tell the story of the founding of the United States and tell the biography of Alexander Hamilton. And a few weeks ago, Vice President-elect, so that means the man who will become the Vice President, the VP of the United States, his name is Mike Pence. So he was on the Trump ticket. So Trump was the candidate for president. Now he's President-elect Trump. His VP pick was Mike Pence, who's now the Vice President-elect of the United States. He went to see the musical because it was so popular. Everyone in the US, basically, almost everyone in the US has heard of this musical now. It's very famous. I'd say at the level of Phantom of the Opera, except maybe even more famous because it has this appeal to the younger generation. Because the show, the lines are all spoken through rap. So I think it has this grassroots appeal, this appeal to the youth, maybe even more than Phantom of the Opera ever had. Although Phantom of the Opera had staying power. it was around for a long time, right? Phantom of the Opera is still popular. I think it's been 30 years? Well, anyway, it's been more than 20 years since it debuted, since the Phantom of the Opera debuted. But Hamilton right now is really hot. And so the Vice President-elect Mike Pence went to see the musical on Broadway. And the cast and the people at the theater saw him because of all the security. There was a lot of Secret Service. His bodyguards are called Secret Service in the United States, right? Because of all the increased security, all the patrons in the audience and the cast knew of his presence. And when the musical finished, when the musical concluded, an actor stepped forward and read a statement directed at Mike Pence. And I'll read you a little bit of that. Okay. It started off with Vice President-elect Pence. We welcome you and we truly thank you for joining us here at Hamilton, an American musical. We really do. We, sir, we are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us. Okay, and then it goes on for a few more lines. And then, I'll go ahead and just read it. That you will not protect us, our planet, our children, our parents, or defend us and uphold our inalienable rights, sir. But we truly hope this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and work on behalf of all of us. All of us. And while he spoke these words, he discouraged the audience from booing. Certain people in the audience started to boo. Okay, so when you're upset, and when the audience is upset and they say boo, that in English is booing. So he told the audience, don't boo him. And as you heard a moment ago, he said, sir, multiple times in the statement. So it seemed very polite. And at the time, Mike Pence's response too was positive. As he left the theater, reporters asked him what he thought of the statement. And he said, I wasn't offended. So the Vice President-elect himself was not offended by it, but Trump, President-elect Trump, took offense to the statements. So when you are offended by something, in English we often say he took offense to it. So he took offense to the statements and took to Twitter. That's another way to say he went on Twitter. He took to Twitter to voice his displeasure. In the last episode we learned voice, right, as the verb. He took to Twitter to voice his displeasure. So I'll read you what Trump said. This was a tweet from President-elect Trump. Our wonderful future VP, Mike Pence, was harassed last night at the theater by the cast of Hamilton, cameras blazing. This should not happen. And then he added, the theater must always be a safe and special place. The cast of Hamilton was very rude last night to a very good man, Mike Pence. Apologize. So Trump called for the cast to apologize. When you say you must apologize, you have to apologize. We can say he called for. So he called for an apology. And I think then there was a response from the theater, and the theater said, the statement was not rude at all, and the cast actually discouraged people from booing and said that it was a polite statement. It was definitely not harassment. They said that the statement couldn't be characterized as harassment, and so that was their response. And then the saga continues because then Saturday Night Live satirized the event. They parodied, in English parody, they parodied the event, the things that had transpired. They parodied that on Saturday Night Live and did a scene about it. And then Trump responded to that skit and again said, that Saturday Night Live is not funny and it was one-sided. It was biased. So Trump said that Saturday Night Live was biased against him and one-sided. We remember, or you'll probably remember, we learned biased a while ago. When something leans too much to the right or to the left, we can say it's biased. And also, you may remember, on the free site, we've learned the expression "do an impression." So amongst the actors who appeared on Saturday Night Live was Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin is a famous actor who's been active for a long time. He does an impression of Donald Trump. So he copies Donald Trump's voice. He does an impersonation of Donald Trump that has been very popular recently. So on Saturday Night Live, Alec Baldwin he did an impression of Donald Trump and referenced this issue with the Hamilton cast, this feud with the Hamilton cast. And then Trump responded on Twitter saying that that was not funny and biased and one-sided. And then Alec Baldwin responded to Trump. And then they had a little Twitter feud. I'll put some links to these articles. So if you want to read the details, if you want to read the content of the tweets that Trump posted and the responses from Alec Baldwin, I'll put the links in the show notes. So if you click on description, I'll put links to some articles that talk about this ongoing Twitter feud between Trump and then SNL, between Trump and Alec Baldwin, and between President-elect Trump and the cast of Hamilton. All right, so if we just go over a couple important words we looked at today. Let's see. A feud is important. A feud is a fight. Also, sometimes they will say spat, Twitter spat, feud. Those are two words that are often used to describe ongoing fights on Twitter. He voiced his displeasure, which we learned in the last episode, covered again today. He took to Twitter. Those are important expressions to learn. And then off-Broadway. Hamilton started out off-Broadway, but then moved to Broadway and took Broadway by storm. So when something's really popular, so let's say there's a Korean boy band. They're really popular in China. You could say that boy band took China by storm. So I don't even know the names of any boy bands, but is 2 p.m. or 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. or something? Is that a boy band or a girl band? I don't even know. But let's imagine they're very popular in China. You could say 2 p.m. took Beijing by storm. 2 p.m. took China by storm. Or K-pop. K-pop has taken China by storm. That's how you can use that expression. And then one more important thing we took a look at was when people are upset in an audience, or the audience when they're upset, they voice their displeasure by booing. So the cast of Hamilton told the crowd not to boo. They said, "Don't boo," and then respectfully voice their opinion to the Vice President-elect. All right, thanks everyone for stopping by this edition of the U.S. News Summary, and we'll see you again in about maybe 7 to 10 days. Bye-bye.